Yeah, so basically how the show goes is, we're gonna be talking about wholesaling, talking about you and, really anything else that comes up. We do a Q&A portion at the end. So if anyone has questions, they'll drop them in the comments and we'll get to those at the end. But man, Seamus, I really appreciate you hopping on the show with me today, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me. I'm always grateful to get on a podcast and just serve and just give information out there to everybody that's looking to get started and everything. So thanks for having me, brother.
I love that, man. So yeah, so for people who don't know, who is Seamus Goss?
So my name is Shamus Goss. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of Atlanta, Georgia. I've been an entrepreneur. I know I don't look it, but I just turned 50 in March. I've been an entrepreneur since I've been like 17 years old. Started out in the music industry, did that for about 10 years. Then I moved into the athletic apparel industry and built a seven-figure company there. And then I got into real estate. Well, I got back into real estate because in 2002, when I moved from New York to Georgia, I went to school for construction management. But quickly, I was like, man, I don't want to swing no damn hammer. I don't want to be out there in the sun. But I should have stayed in school just to understand the process of building homes because that's eventually where I wound it back up. So, a full-time entrepreneur. Only had 6 jobs in my life. None of them last longer than 60 days. I'm a terrible employee. I had to work for myself, man.
Yeah, I relate with that, man. You say you 50?
Yeah.
Bro, I never would have guessed. You look like 30, like at the most.
Our oldest son is 29 years old.
That's
So
wild, man.
trust me, the beard dye works, man. It works.
Yeah. Damn, man. What's the secret, bro? You do a lot of like healthy eating and stuff, working out, or?
Yeah, yeah. I usually work out every day. Now with my knee injury, I haven't been in the gym since I had surgery. But eating well, self care. I do a lot of cryotherapy, IV drips, a lot of supplements, lion's mane, sea moss. Every for breakfast, like my breakfast is my wife makes me a shake with strawberries, blueberries, cranberries, blackberries, sea moss, kale, all of that stuff. That's how I start my day off. And I really got in heavy probably about a year ago into meditation. So just calming my mind and being able to be in alignment and be present. So that's what's worked for me, man.
That's great, man. I love that. So, how'd you first get into real estate?
So my first shot at real estate was in 2002 when I moved from New York. I didn't want to be in the music industry no more, so I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was like, man, I might as well go back to school. And I always had a love for construction. Like I just find it fascinating that you could take a piece of dirt and build a beautiful home that a family can make memories in and live in, forever. So I went to school for construction management. Quickly, I was like, man, I do not want to swing no damn hammer. Got out of that, pivoted into started doing athletic apparel. We had a factory in the Philippines that we owned that we used to import, product from China and everything. Then in 2015, I was like, you know what? Let me take another shot at real estate. I went to go get my real estate license. I was only in it for 4 days and I realized I'm like, man, all of the stuff that they're teaching me, this is not going to help me doing the investing I want. I don't care about air rights and mineral rights. I'm not buying the soil for the minerals, right?
Hmm.
So I kind of got out of that. And then when I was closing my uniform company down, I got burnt out. Was closing the company down, and I bought a property to rehab. We bought 5 acres. We like, hey, we're gonna rehab it. Wind up getting terrible contractors. It was a disaster. I was like, man, I can't do this real estate thing. And then I came back at it a fourth time in like 2017, 2018. I got under a mentor. I learned a lot from them, and then I just didn't look back after that.
That's great, man. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you still persisted, even though the first one didn't go smooth. I mean, rarely ever does. But I think that's great, man. That you kept getting it after it.
Exactly.
So, how did you transition from there into getting into wholesaling?
So it's a funny story. So I got under the mentors, and it was a program. When I first came in to the real estate space, I was doing more fixing and flipping. We would have like 3 or 4 projects going all together at one time. So I learned the rehab side of it, what costs are, what it costs to rehab a property, take it down to the studs, build it back up. And that group that I was in, let's just say I got into the mentorship. At the time, I didn't have money to pay for the mentorship, so I borrowed it. I was good at social media marketing, so I was like, "Hey, this is what I'll do. I'll do all your social media marketing, help you build the brand and everything, and you just teach me real estate." So I brought like several deals to the table. 3 or 4 deals I brought to the table made like close to like 300 grand. And let's just say I only made $3,000. So I was like, man, I'm not, come on, I should get more than that, at least 25% of it.
Yeah.
So I actually walked away from that group because there was a lot of internal stuff that was going on. It was like 4 or 5 owners, and this owner was arguing with the other owner. I'm like, listen, man, I just want to learn real estate. And then I started watching podcasts and everything. And then I ran into Carlos and Sal and Alex, right? So I hit him up on Instagram. It was like, yo, I'm interested in coming out to Freedom, which was in 2019. And because I didn't know because I brought several other deals to the table, and they didn't want to fund the deals. And I'm like, hey, but you told me to use this MAO formula. We're way below that. That's when I found out that there was internal stuff. So I said, you know what? I didn't have the money to actually do those projects and renovate them myself. I didn't have the money to go to a hard money lender or anything. So when I started finding out about wholesale, I'm like, so you mean I could just put the property under contract and sell it and then build my money up? And I took a flight out, went to Freedom, used my last money because when I closed my 7-figure company now for the uniforms, we lost everything. House got foreclosed, cars got repoed, jet skis, everything was gone. I literally took my last month's rent and I took a flight out to Arizona because I was like, something is telling me that I got to get out here. I went out there. They kind of explained the process to me. I came back, put my head down, and started going at it. You know, it took me probably I think the first 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I got a deal. Then I got another one. And I'm like, man, I'm just going to, just keep going at it.
That's great, man. I love that. So, man, so you heard that voice. I feel like a lot of people, they hear that voice and they don't listen to it, or especially when they're going through it. Like you said, you're kind of losing everything. You kind of get in that real negative state. What made you decide to listen to that voice and just go all in?
When I lost everything, I remember I used to have this deck, and I used to sit on the deck. Plenty of nights I sat there and just cried, talking to God, like, I'm a good person. I've been with my wife 35 years. I'm a father. What am I doing wrong? And those 2 years when we lost everything from 2016 to 2018, I started to listen to his voice more, and it became clearer and clearer. And then I realized that I got God on one shoulder and I got the devil on the other one. And I learned whose voice is what. So when I heard that voice, like, hey, you got to go out there, don't worry about it. I was like, so I learned to tell the difference between the good voice and the bad voice. And there've been several times that saved my life. It kept me from getting in trouble and stuff like that. So when I kind of hear it, I know, okay, I know who that's talking, and the one that's saying, nah, you can't afford it, don't do it. I know I know who's talking. You want to pump the fear in me. So, when I hear that voice, I kind of know the difference between it now, and I kind of try my best, because even now I still don't listen to it all the time, but I try my best too.
That's great, man. No, I love that for sure. I like how sometimes your lowest times when you get the closest with God, and that's when you start to grow and grow in your faith. And it's funny when you're going through it, don't feel like it, but it ends up working out in your benefit a lot of the times.
Exactly.
But cool, man. So you got the first couple deals. How'd you get those first couple ones?
So my first matter of fact, my first deal that I got was from an RVM. I was sending out RVMs, and actually, when a person called back, it wasn't even a number I sent it out to. I guess they changed their phone number, and the RVM went to the new owner, and the new owner called me. It was like, hey, I got a house I'm looking to sell. So the first deal was RVM. And at the time I was doing, I was mailing out to probate pre-foreclosures. I was doing some handwritten letters. And then I also was doing RVMs and a little bit of cold calling. The reason why I wanted to go through the cold calling was just to get comfortable with talking to homeowners and getting cursed out and everything. So those are the first ones. It was RVMs, some cold calling, and some mail. That's how I got the first couple of deals.
Nice, man. That's great. So walk us through from, that real quick overview from like there now. You got the first couple, this works. You get that proof of concept. What would happen after that?
So the one thing that was good about me ever since I was young, whatever industry or whatever business I decide to go into, I get laser focused. Like if it's my learning process, I'm watching videos all through the night on the phone, laptop. So what I was always good at, like what most wholesalers make a mistake. Let's say they go get their first deal and they make 20K. They're gonna take the 20K. They're gonna go on a vacation. They're gonna buy a Gucci bag. They're gonna buy some dumb shit that they don't need. I was always good at, hey, I made this first 20K. Let me dump it back into marketing. I need more leads. So I was always good at when I started and I got proof of concept, not going crazy, buying stuff and everything. But hey, 10 grand turns into 20. Next thing you know, I got 40 for marketing. Now I got 6 months of marketing dollars. So it was me reinvesting those funds back in, because you hear all of the gurus, hey, you could do this without no money. You can, but you won't be consistent.
Mm.
I don't know nobody that's not spending no money on marketing that's closing 5 or 10 deals a month. I don't know anybody. If anybody's listening to do, let me know, because they could teach me something that I don't know and save me some money. So it's important that you take those funds and you reinvest. And then I did a lot of self-development, a lot of sales training. I got my practitioner's license in NLP and things like that. So I worked on my skill, because it's a different animal when I'm trying to sell somebody a t-shirt than trying to convince them to sell me the only asset they have in their life. And we had debates about, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not. I could sell 1,000 t-shirts in a week, but I probably can't buy 1,000 houses in a week, because that's an asset that somebody probably had. They're only going to do it once or twice in their lifetime. And they have to come up off a 2, 3, 4, $500,000 asset. It's a sales process, but I think you need different skill sets and everything to get good at purchasing homes and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the big difference between buying a T-shirt and literally changing your whole life and selling a house and have to move somewhere else and somewhere you live and you got memories and stuff and there's emotional attachment to it.
Exactly. Selling you a t-shirt, there's no, I don't need to talk to you about nothing emotional. You either like the t-shirt, it fits, and you wear it, or you don't. With a house, you got a lot of other moving pieces that you have to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. So that's great. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people skip like doing the internal work too, and I feel like when you start to grow internally, that's when you really can stretch and go a lot further.
1,000%. That's probably one of the best investments I made over the last 2 years, was hiring my first personal development coach. That started teaching me about meditation and everything. And we figured something out. Like, I couldn't understand the majority of my life. I grew up single family. My mother raised me. Never really, I only met my father like once or twice. He used to beat my mother. But as I got older, I always had better friendships and better relationships with females. I didn't know why. Like, even with our kids, we got 2 sons and a daughter. My daughter do something, I'm like, it's okay, baby. The sons do the same thing. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Right? I couldn't figure it out. Same thing with employees. I get female employees. They could do stuff. I let them get away with it. A man, come on, man, you got to be on your game. Then I realized that since I grew up not having a father, I have the utmost respect for my mom. Anytime a man, including my son, an employee, or anybody that didn't do what I thought they were supposed to do, I looked at that as how I looked at my father, and it ruined our relationship, right? I would have knew that if I didn't start working internally. Then when I figured that out, I'm like, okay, how many other things that I have that is ruining relationships and I need to work on personally. So self-development was probably one of the best investments I made, was hiring that personal coach.
Yeah, that's great, man. Now, it's wild how many things that you can have that you don't really know that you're doing subconsciously that's like affecting things and you just really don't know until you start to look inside.
Exactly.
But that's great, man. So yeah, you got there, so you're having success with the business. What are you doing now? What's working best for you now? I know we kind of talked a little before the call. You kind of want to share what you're doing differently now than before, what you're doing then.
So at one point, all we was doing was just looking for deals that we can wholesale, which, when the hedge fund frenzy was running along, you could lock houses up at 85 cents on a dollar, 90 cents on a dollar, and still make money. A lot of that is over right now. They adjusted. And in order for you to sell a wholesale deal to an investor, you're going to have to get it at anywhere between 50 to 70 cents on a dollar. Because if it's a buy and hold investor, they could pay a little bit more for the home. But if it's an investor that's looking to make 20% on it, you have to get it at a super discount, right? What I started doing was, one of the first things we started doing was adding novations, right? We started adding novations, hotels. Some of the properties, if the property is good enough, if the numbers are good enough for us, I don't care what state it's in, we're going to take it down. We're going to clean it out. We're going to list it on the market. Then we started doing novations, which we can give the homeowner more money for their home. And then the last thing that we implemented that I think a lot of wholesalers are completely leaving out, because I talked to a bunch of people and nobody is really doing it. We just list the property for the homeowner. If a house comes to us and let's say they want 350,000 for the house, and the house is in good condition and it could sell for 350, we list it. Now, most wholesalers think we gotta, what I used to do is refer it to an agent and they give me, $500 fee, $1,000 fee, or whatever it is. But what we do now is we just pay the 250 flat fee listing, right? We list the property, we take pictures, right? As soon as we put the property under contract, we file a notice of interest, right?
Mhm.
So when they go to run the title, the notice of interest comes up. When that notice of interest comes up, I submit an invoice for the 3%.
Hmm.
That's a lot of deals that people are just leaving on the table because they think they got to get it at a super discount. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
just imagine how many leads come in every month that the house is worth 300,000 and they want 300,000.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
Now,
Most
if
of
you
them.
just
Yeah.
took the 3%, let's say you did 5 of those, that's $45,000 on leads you already have,
Yeah.
right? So we've been doing a lot of those, and I'm telling a lot of investors, I'm like, man, you're leaving money on the table, especially if it's like we just did one in Texas. I made a
Mhm.
little bit over 10,000. The house was built in 2018, and how I kind of break it down to them is I explain to them like, listen, when I'm pitching it, they may say, well, what's the difference between you and a regular agent? I said, first of all, a regular agent, all they're gonna do is list your property and hope that somebody calls them. That's what they're gonna do. Half the
Mhm.
time I try to reach out to properties on MLS, their agents don't even call me back.
Yeah.
I said the difference between us is we have a buyers list of 3.5 million buyers. We're gonna aggressively go after buyers. We're gonna run comps in the area. All the properties that's similar to yours in the last 90 days that sold, we're going to call those realtors because chances are they had backup offers.
Mhm.
So our properties will sell faster. Another thing, since realtors are not making that much money, a lot of time when they list your property, the seller's agent keeps 4% and gives the buyer's agent 2%.
Mhm.
So now if I got a client that the house is 400,000 and you're giving me 2%, and this house right here is giving me 3.5 to 4%, I'm going to persuade them to go to the 4%.
Right.
So that's what I do. So with broker list, that's what we use with flat fee listing. I just give the buyer's agent 3.5, 4%. And then I tack on our 3%. The other 3% is the closing costs, title insurance and everything. And when I first started doing it, I realized that the formula that we have, our houses was selling, like we had one in Thomasville. They had a house on the market since November of
Mm.
last year. We put ours on the market, followed the same strategy. 48 hours after we listed it, we was already under contract, 2 doors down. She just took a house off the market.
Wow.
And so I started using that. I'm like, bro, a lot of, and because I look at it like this, we're becoming more of a transactional company.
Mhm.
If we have 60 leads or 100 leads a month, if we have 6 or 7 different solutions, they want to sell their house. Now, of
Mm.
course, if their house is a shit box and it needs to fully rehab, you're not getting nowhere close. You're unrealistic. But
Mhm.
if it's a house that's in good shape and a little bit of paint and you discount it, you investors and wholesalers are leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's what we did. We added more exit strategies and we're able to close more deals on the leads that we already get.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. 'Cause I feel like, even if you have one, and like, cause what we'll do is we'll just kick it to a real estate agent, or what we have been doing. And then it's tough because sometimes you don't know if they're going to call them. You don't know if they're going to have the same kind of rapport you already had and you built with the seller. And yeah, I like that. That's a great strategy.
Exactly. Pay the 250, get the pictures. When we submit the invoice for the 3%, we also put on there an admin fee, which is
Mhm.
the broker list fee and the picture. So if it came to 550, it's the 3% plus the 550, and that's it.
Now, what do you submit the invoice to? You do, the seller,
To,
or is that
to the
the
title
title?
company.
To,
Yeah,
oh,
the
okay.
title
So
company.
title handles it.
Yeah, once we file a notice of interest or affidavit or memorandum, some states are different. That
Mhm.
just clouds a title. When they run a title, they're gonna be like, "Hey, there's a lien on the property. The lien doesn't have no amount on it. There's a
Mhm.
lien on the property," and we say, "Hey, this." And I explain that too, because even in our purchase sale agreement, it
Mhm.
states that we have the right to file an affidavit or memorandum. And
Mm.
when the owner asks me, like if we're in closing, the owner was like, "How'd you put a lien?" Oh, it's not a lien; it's a notice of interest. That just assures that we get paid, because there's been times where we brought the buyer to the table and then the homeowner didn't want to pay us our commission. So that's just saying, hey, we have to get paid 3%, and they're cool with it. So we file a notice of interest, and then when the title company reaches out to us, because we're the one guiding the buyer too, like this is the title company we're using, and I'll let them know, like, here, you're gonna file a notice of interest. This is the 3% invoice or whatever like that, and we kind of control the entire transaction.
I like that a lot. So how does that differ? And can you, I know you mentioned you do novations as well. Can you kind
Mhm.
of explain what a novation is for people and then just kind of explain the difference?
So a novation is a little bit different because with a novation, you're going in for a little more of a discount. So let's
Hmm.
say the house was 300,000. Instead of the 10% at 270, you're probably going to offer them 250, somewhere around there, 240. Now, the thing about a novation is you get them to sign a purchase sale agreement. In some states, you only need the attorney in fact, and then you get them to sign a novation identification agreement. All that basically says is when I list the property, if I find a conventional buyer, I can just replace this contract. If I find if and the reason you use novation in certain cases is especially if it's going to be an FHA buyer, because let's say the deal is good. If you take the property down and close on it, you have to hold it 90, sometimes 180 days to sell it to a FHA buyer.
Hmm.
With a novation agreement, you just novate the property, right?
Hmm.
So you're looking to get a little bit more of a discount, not the typical 8 to 10% like the listing. And then in most cases, some of those properties are going to need a little bit of work. They may need to get paint, carpet replaced, paint, maybe some appliances. So you kind of got to calculate the typical 8%, 10%, then minus your fee, and then minus some repairs. That's why a house is 300,000, you probably would be going for 230, 240, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
If they don't go for that, I'm okay with you saying yes to 270 because I'm still getting $10,000 regardless.
Right.
So it you have to look at the seller that you have, how much time they have. Is
Hmm.
usually, I usually ask for 60 days to novate a property. Listing it could be a little bit longer, but that's kind of the difference. It's almost the same strategy, but
Hmm.
you're going in for a deeper discount, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, cool. So when you're like say you're talking to a seller, how are you like presenting these offers? So like are you starting with the cash offer and then pivoting here if they don't like the cash offer?
Exactly. So the first thing I do is, and what I learned quick is when I start to talk to them with the pitch, I tell them, hey, I have 3 or 4 options for you. I don't start off like, hey, well, our cash offer is this, because soon they
Mm,
hear that low ball offer.
does that click? Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So I said, hey, I got 3 or 4 options for you. The first option is going to be a cash offer, and we're around 180 to 190,000. Let me explain to you why we're at that particular number. Because we're going to come in, your property hasn't been updated in a decade and a half, and we have to update the kitchens, we have to update the bathrooms, HVAC, floors, and I give them numbers. This is going to run us around $40,000 to $50,000, and we do have to make a little bit of money,
Hmm.
right? The next option is our concierge service, where we can get you closer to the number you want. So instead of the 180 to 190, we're around that 230 to 250 mark, right? That's going to get you an additional. That's going to get you a little bit more money. And then the last one is like, hey, we want a little bit more than the 240 or 250. Okay, we could just list the property and you're going to walk away with around 270. So I give them all three of them. I hit them with the low one, but I explain how, the kitchen, the bathrooms, flooring, HVAC, paint, everything, you're looking at around $45,000. Now, if you can go do the work, if you have the $45,000 to renovate it, go ahead and renovate it and we'll buy it off you at the price you want.
Hmm.
But it's so much inventory on the market right now. If a new homeowner is buying a home for 300,000, chances are they're getting a property that has a new roof, a new HVAC, new bathrooms, new cabinets, new kitchens, and so you're competing with somebody that is selling a home for 300,000 fully renovated versus you selling yours for 300,000 and the kitchen is 15 years old and HVAC is 10, 15 years old. So it's just not, so they understand. And I use numbers. I use
Hmm.
numbers. I use a low comp like, hey, this property was just like yours and it sold for 183. That's the number we're going to be at. But, that if you take the cash offer, we're going to go in there and invest $40,000-$50,000 and fully renovate the property. And then we have the 30%, I mean, the 10% closing costs and everything. So we don't really make that much money off it. We just want to put a family in a home. So I start with that. Then I lead into, I call it the concierge service, where I tell them, hey, we're more of the marketing part of the company. And what happens is we have around 3.5 million buyers on our list, and it's our obligation to share our inventory with our network. So in some cases, some investors that may live right in that county wants that property for a rental. So they're willing to pay a little bit more than an investor that's going to fully renovate it. So that's how we're able to get you closer to your number.
Yeah, I like that. Now, I like how you explain it and you break down the numbers for them. I feel like a lot of times they're like, oh, you're lowballing me. But I feel like when you explain, why you're coming up with the numbers that you did, and you kind of overcome that without having to overcome it.
Exactly. Go call a contractor and tell them you want to update your kitchens, your bathroom, your roof, your HVAC, your carpeting, your flooring, and tell me what they tell you. They know the numbers. Like you'll get unrealistic people that want 300,000 for the house, and the house needs 100,000, and they're not going to sell their house. They're just not. They're not going to sell it, right? Especially with the market declining now, people are starting to be more realistic. Like, hey, this house was fully renovated, right? And yours isn't. That sold for 300. You're going to be closer to 200. So I use numbers. I anchor them. I show them low comps. If you want an estimate, we'll send an estimate that this is what it's going to cost us to get it fully repaired, so you can understand the process and everything.
I like that. Nice. I like that's real professional. And yeah, I feel like that's a great way to handle that. So I know when we were speaking before, you kind of mentioned you guys are focusing mostly on inbound marketing as opposed to outbound. Do you kind of want to run us through what's working for you now?
Yeah. So right now we're doing PPC, Facebook ads, and some PPL, right? So PPL is pay per lead. So let's just say you're in Georgia. You can pick. See the thing. Let me back up. When you run PPC, you're gonna get leads in rural areas that's not a lot. There's not a lot of action going on there. But even some of those areas, we sold properties just by putting them on MLS, and we're transparent with the homeowner. This property is going on MLS, right? When you go for PPL, you can actually pick counties, right? So you can say, I want these 5 counties, and you only get leads from those 5 counties, right? So if you know your backyard, and hey, I know these 5 counties, then that would actually help you. Thank you. I'm reading some of the comments over here.
Yeah, so we got Jamie LeBlanc and looks like Juan Estrada.
And Morales, he said that this isn't cheap, haha. I'm a contractor, kitchen counter. Yeah, exactly. And it also depends on what state you're in. Like I could get a kitchen fully done, cabinets, countertops, floors, and everything for $12K. But if I was doing that in California, it's $36,000. So it just depends on the area. But back to what I'm saying. So you got PPL, PPC, and then you got Facebook. When it comes to PPC, we're like 1 in 12, 1 in 15. When it comes to PPL, we're around 1 in 12. Facebook, we're like 30 and 1 because the Facebook leads, 40 and 1 are not as good as PPC. But then the Facebook leads are $25 a lead compared to $200 a lead. Right. So I look at the price per lead. So if it takes me 40 leads that cost me $25, that's $1,000 for me to get an average spread of 13K. Right. So inbound. And the thing I feel, the reason why I'm pushing more of the solopreneur is because what I feel happens is the same thing we talked about, because it happened to me, is when you're doing all of the outbounding, it's a continuous hustle, you get burnt out. And for somebody that's starting new, for you to pull a list of 10,000 sellers and start cold calling, you're going to get your face kicked in. And some people are not built for it. They're like, man, this ain't for me, right? So my thing is, if you have a little bit of budget that you could start with, even if it's $1,000, $1,500, go get 10, 15 inbound leads. Learn multiple exit strategies like innovation, like listing, and I guarantee you that you're going to get a deal faster if I gave you a list of 10,000 people and told you to go out there and start cold call. Because my thing is, with the students and everybody that I'm teaching, is I want you to get proof of concept fast, right? Like I had a conversation. I was doing shooting some content. It was another wholesaler that was there, And he was like, "Yo, I follow you on Instagram and everything. Like, what are you doing?" And I mentioned Novations. He said, "What is that?" And I told him, I said, it's a different way. I told him, I said, if you're not doing Novation, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So he asked me for my phone number. He said, "Hey, what is it going to cost for you to teach me this?" I said, "Just give me $1,000, book a coaching call with me, get on the Zoom." I literally did a 30-minute phone call with him, one Zoom, and that week he got his first Novation deal and made like 28K. He's like, "Bro, this was the best $1,000 I spent." He's like, "I didn't even know that you could do that." So just having different exit strategies, I feel like the industry is teaching everybody, go pull 10,000 records, call them, get it for 50 cents on a dollar. Good luck. I think it's better saying, "Hey, if you could save up and get a $1,500 to $2,500 budget, go inbound, study these different exit strategies, and you're going to get a deal faster." You have to make less calls. And if somebody calling you, I do tell my students, because when they start in our program, I give them the first 1,000 leads. I said, "Here's 1,000 leads, but pain points like pre-foreclosures, probate." I said, "What I want you to do is go through these 1,000 calls just to get comfortable talking to homeowners, getting objections and deal with it. Once you're done with that and you feel like you're comfortable, turn on the inbound and go get those checks."
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I just started a new guy and I started my FISBOs just so you could get the reps in. And like us, most of those people are unrealistic, but at least you're getting the reps in. You're having the conversations. You're dealing with the objections, and that way you're not just sitting there and dialing and just not talking to nobody.
Exactly. And that's the key, is let them get through that. Let them get through that kicked in their face. And I heard everything. "I hope your mother die. I'm gonna blow your house up." I'm like, "Yo, God bless you. Have a blessed day." It is what I got, thick skin. They can't do nothing. You can't come through that phone and do nothing to me.
Right.
So I get them to get that out of their blood, and then I just put them into our machine. Because this is the thing: a lot of wholesalers that are dropping out is because they get burned out. They got to keep getting back into the acquisition seat, which once you grow past that, you get acquisition agents and you're doing six figures and they leave. Now you're back on the phones again. And if you're doing outbound cold calling and texting, it's brutal because you got to do everything else in the business as well. So I'm going to take calls. Let me get 2 or 3 calls a day from individuals that want to hear me call them back, and they raise their hand, and I could deal with it a little bit better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's great. So I know we get some questions in here. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, keep dropping them. We're going to transition to the Q&A portion soon. It looks like we got some great ones, and I definitely appreciate you guys. But yeah, that's great. So yeah, I think it just makes a lot of sense because if you have less leads, a lot easier to follow up to. Like like you were saying, it definitely resonated with me that when you have all these leads and all these people and you have new ones keep going, it gets hard to follow up with them all for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people. I'm like, "Listen, man, there's no way you got 3,000 leads in your CRM and you're doing consistent follow up. Show me that sequence. Show me that sequence." And if you're doing something like that, you got to have 5 follow-up specialists, 5 acquisition agents, 15 VAs. The problem with that was last year when the entire industry took a dive and a hedge fund started backing out, those big operations was taking hits for 30, 40, $50,000 a month and couldn't sustain. And they was tapping out. I pivoted probably last March because I'm in a group, it's around 25 of us, and I was telling everybody, because I watched the market, I watched economics and everything, and I told myself, "Okay, we're headed into a recession. These hedge funds are going to start to pull back. Let's stop selling to the hedge funds." Plus, they're taking homes away from the community. Everybody thought I was crazy. And then June, July, hedge funds halted. Amherst, all of them. Everybody, I'm closing my business. I told you to pivot away from, and it's easy for you to call a homeowner that wants 300,000 and you offer them 280 and they take it, because you can turn around in a hedge fund and give you 300 for it. But they started buying like real investors. Hey, 60 cents on a dollar, 50 cents on a dollar. So I was like, man, you got to get away from those hedge funds and acquire skills. And the way to do that is to have more exit strategies and to actually go after individuals that have real problems. Their house is getting foreclosed on, it's probate, lis pendants, divorce, whatever it is. High equity, and I own 10 homes. I ain't got no motivation. I don't got to sell it to you. I can let you run my ear off all year and just tell you go kick rocks. But if your house is going to foreclosure in a week or two, I think you got to have this conversation with me or you're going to lose your home.
Right. 100%.
But
So yeah, so what are some of the like big mistakes that you see, new people making, or things they should be doing differently, you think?
I think one of the biggest things I see them doing is trying to scale too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tried to do that. I mean, I went through a period where I invested 150K before I closed my first deal. Most people would have been tapped out. They're like, yo, because my buddy's like, yo, you're 100 grand in. I'm like, bro, I can't stop now.
Right.
I can't stop now. It's like 3 inches from goal. Like if I just geared to the right and went that direction, I would have hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Scaling too fast. I think that you need to understand every seat in the business. So, like, if you're new, you put the calls in just so you could get comfortable, understand what it is to dispo, understand what it is to deal with the transaction coordination part, understand the marketing channels. Take your time. See, because all of the companies I built, I kind of was wired different. So if I have a company that's making $1 million a year and we're at a 30% profit margin, if I want to make a 50% profit margin, I'm not going to raise my price to the customer. What I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to figure out is, okay, how could I go from 30,000 to make 50,000? A prime example, when we had the uniform company, we was doing 7 figures a year and we had
Mm-hmm.
around a 30-35% profit margin. I was like, how can we get this to 60%? So what I did was I looked at all of the inventory we was buying, all of the basketball uniforms, all of the custom football uniforms and everything, and we purchased a factory in the Philippines, which
Mm-hmm.
actually cut our costs from paying 45 a uniform down to 25. That gave me the other 25%. So now we was at a 60% profit margin. So my thing is, how do I get a wholesaling company that makes 2 million a year and we only spend 200,000 and we 10x? Because when I study companies, I'll go to Fortune 500 and Forbes and look at companies that only have 8 people and they made 78 million. How the hell did you do that with 8 people?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got companies that made 70 million, but they got 350 employees. I don't want to do that. I'm not a good leader when it comes to me hoorahing everybody and getting 700 people hyped up. Nah, man, we're going to get the money or we're not. You're going to see me drive by you in my Rolls Royce or we're not. We're going to get it together or we're not. So I know for me, I don't want to manage a lot of people. I look at it like the Navy SEALs. When everybody else can't do it, you send these 5 in and they wipe the entire country out. So I kind of built my company like that. You only need 1 or 2 good acquisition people if you don't want to be in that seat. And that's what happens. They go hire a bunch of VAs, then they get a bunch of leads that they can't keep up. Then they start getting frustrated. That next thing you know, you're 40, 50,000 in data that you never even called them back. So scaling too fast is one.
Mm-hmm.
And then also being a one-trick pony, like only trying to give somebody 50 cents on a dollar. Why? When
Mm-hmm.
you could give them 75 or 80%, and you might be able to get more deals. So those are two of the main things that I see.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Yeah, I think learning all the different seats is so important. So I feel like a lot of people I talk to or work with, or that are just getting started, or in my mastermind, they like just want to kind of skip steps and just want to hire VAs to do everything and like not make the calls themselves. And I mean, it's real hard to teach someone how to do something that you've never done.
Exactly. That's my point. You can't teach me how to shoot a three if you ain't hit one in your life. Like,
Right.
give me somebody that hit a three, and then I'll listen to them. And that's exactly what they do. Now, it's a different story if you just want to hire a VA to make calls and send you leads. I
Mm-hmm.
still recommend you go 60 to 90 days of making calls,
Mm-hmm.
right? Go through that calling process, get your face kicked in, and then you could switch or whatever like that. But that's exactly, they come in with money. I'm going to hire 5 VAs. You don't know your KPIs. You don't know what to look for. You don't know how many calls to make sure they make how many calls, how much talk time. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a huge mistake a lot of people make. So awesome, man. I've gotten a lot of great value, man. I definitely, appreciate you hopping on. And, but yeah, so we're going to, switch over to the Q&A portion real quick. Let's see what we got for questions. And if anyone else has any other ones, make sure to drop them in the comments.
Let's do it.
So we got great stuff. Shamus it said, truth. Who do you like to use for PPL?
So for PPL, we're using Need to Sell My House Fast and
Mhm.
Motivated Sellers. Those are the two. There's a couple more out there, but the thing I like about Need to Sell My House Fast, when we do PPC, a lot of wholesalers, because they're watching all of this bullshit out there, a lot of wholesalers are submitting properties on our website. They're
Mhm.
going to properties that they don't even have under contract, submitting to agents. The good thing about Need to Sell My House Fast, If it's a wholesaler that submits it, or the number is wrong, or the property is listed, or it's a mobile home, they'll give you credit for that lead.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I was getting, man, I used to have to tell the wholesalers, yo, y'all need to stop doing that shit.
Yeah.
You don't even have, you're submitting a property that you don't even have under contract yet to ask me if I want to buy it. That's not the way I don't know who you learning or who you're watching, but that's not the right way to do it. Right. So I used to get frustrated. I used to try to teach them. I'm like, listen, man, you got to find off-market deals, right? Stop doing that. But need to sell my house fast and motivated sellers is the ones that I use.
Cool. And then for PPC, are you doing that internally, or do you have someone you're working with?
No, I have a guy named Chasen that actually does our PPC. Last month we turned the PPC off and turned PPL full on because I was in 20 markets. We closed out the last couple of deals. We had some in Ohio, we had some in Texas, some in Kentucky. I kind of tuned back. We turned the PPC off and just dumped those funds into PPL, dialed back just to Georgia, and went to 20 counties. Right. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now, because I want to be able to get to these properties and stuff like that, even though we make money out of state. And I'm going to eventually turn it back on to go nationwide. But right now we're trying out the PPL because I really want to dial in numbers. Okay, 12 leads, that's 2,200, 13,000 and stuff like that,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, and then, so like Jamie said, I need to learn more on novations. So I know you said you do some trainings on novations. Where would you recommend someone go to learn more on that?
So Rich Wonders, that's my guy. I don't know if you know Rich Wonders, but he's great with novations, Rainmaker acquisitions, but he basically teaches novations. If you're in my coaching group and everything, I do teach novations, but I don't really have like a course specifically for like just to teach you. I could tell you the concept, I could give you the paperwork, I could explain it to you, but I don't have a course just on that. In my course that I have, the roadmap, it actually breaks down novations and all the documents and everything you need in there.
Oh, nice. Where can people find that?
So you could go to Wholesaling with Shamus. That's actually where you can actually see the course. But we're doing, I'm starting to do free master classes every Sunday where we're going to talk about novations. And all that is free wholesalingmasterclasses.com. We're going to do it every Sunday. And then I'm also doing September 4th to the 8th, a 5-day challenge where they come in for 5 days, 2 hours a day, and we break down everything, systems, processes, and everything. But if you click the link in my bio, you're going to see everything there, the course, free masterclass, everything.
Awesome, man. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to follow you on social or to connect with you?
Well, definitely Instagram, Shamus Goss. I do mostly on Instagram. I'm starting to do more on TikTok. I'm trying to figure out that platform, but Instagram is probably the best way to get in touch with me and everything and find me there. And if you click a link in the bio, you'll see everything that I'm doing.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you. Any final thoughts or anything you want to share with people?
Yeah, like if you're looking to get into real estate, specifically wholesaling, I don't think that there's been a better time right now with everything that's happened with the market that's going down, the dollar losing its value. We're going through a big financial switch, going from the US dollar to crypto. But one thing that have withstood the test of time for building wealth is real estate. The richest people in the world, they invest in real estate. And if you see now, companies like JP Morgan, Chase, and stuff like that, they want to become the biggest landlord in America, right? So get into it. And the barrier of entry to get into real estate is wholesaling, right? But put the time in it. Don't say you're going to get into it and then, you make one call a week. It's not going to happen. In my masterclass, I break down, we all got 168 hours in a week. And I break down, if you're working 40 hours a week, if you sleep for 56, you still got 20 hours a week that you could put into this. Even if you get one deal a month, an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a month, a lot of, that's life changing for a lot of people,
100%.
So get into real estate, study it, and stay consistent.
I love that, man. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody for listening. If you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments and we'll go back and answer them for you. But yeah, man, I appreciate you. This was great.
I appreciate you having me, brother.